He's working. Oh no, not yet.
I did it.
Yay.
Okay, so hi guys. For those of you that don't actually know me, I'm Gustav or Gus. I think most of you should hopefully remember me. So I'm going to talk about the first 36 hours. Basically just going to scare you with what you should be expecting so that you're ready, because if you're ready, your campus will be ready. Okay, so the first 36 hours, especially if you're in the junior unit, what's very, very important is that you are over explaining literally everything to your campers. Because for a lot of them, this is very new. So you want to make sure that they actually understand what you're saying. Because if you're new and you are nervous, you're scared, chance of you asking questions when you don't know, not that high. You'll kind of just sit there and nod and hope for the best, like most of you are probably doing in these sessions. So it's better to over explain and then hopefully they do understand and you cover all the bases. And as part of that over explaining, take them through the first day at camp, the first 36 hours for them, what they should be expecting. Things like the showers, take them over how they will be showering with everyone, like most of you have experienced here. If it's your first time, it could be very scary, especially again with the juniors, but also with the middlers and even the seniors when it is their first year at camp. So it's very important to prepare them for what to expect. You take them over the rotations and stuff like inspection, make sure that they know where all their things are. Because as you guys know, it gets very, very dark at camp and you don't want to be fumbling around looking for your light or your rain jacket if it suddenly starts to storm. So make sure your campers know exactly where their things are and have them in a space where they can easily get to it. And then I also would highly recommend showing your campers where different things are, especially things like the wayside. Show them how to get to the wayside from the cabin. You can even walk them there if you'd like. Again, if it's really dark, it's your first time at camp. Even with the light, it might not be the easiest thing for a kid to find the wayside. It seems simple and easy to us because it's the only building with a light. But if you're really scared, your brain doesn't always work normally and you don't think about the most obvious things that we usually think about. And then also just take them through like what program will look like their first morning. Just basically get them ready for everything that will be happening for them in that first 36 hours, because the more prepared they are, the more informed they are, the smaller the chances of them becoming homesick or just being completely freaked out or scared on day one. So this is not only to make them feel better, but trust me, it'll make your life a lot easier if you don't have to deal with all of your campers having an absolute terrible first night, being really scared and homesick. So building off of that, in the first 36 hours, you definitely do get a lot of that homesickness, especially if it's, again, a camper's first time staying away from their parents, first time not having their phone with them, first time not having electricity in their room. They're suddenly in a room with 10 other people. So get them ready for that and be very alert on things like if you have a camper that is super quiet.
I'm going to pause you just for 1 second. Nat, do we have Sam and Matt trying to get into the room? Because I think they apparently the link isn't working for them.
Nope.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry to interrupt, Gustav.
Like you said, Goose, we got to keep the standards up. Some people just aren't allowed in this room.
So, yeah, Sam and Matt said, I guess the link isn't working for them. So
I want to give it a minute, try and get them in here.
well, we're recording it right now, so they can go back and watch the beginning part. So you should continue, but the trick is, Jess, maybe you can resend them an email or something. Okay. All right.
They'll
So
be watching
Gustav,
this and going, that's me on recording.
All right.
All right. Yeah, so yeah, just I would say especially we always want to be alert and attentive of the campers, but especially in those first 36 hours, pay attention to things like a camper being very quiet or like withdrawing from the group. And you want to almost force them into conversation, get them plugged in with the rest of the cabin, with the rest of the unit, and just in camp, and make sure that you are engaging with your campers. It is our job as the counselors to make sure that the campers are having the best experience they can, whilst also keeping them safe. So make sure you are engaging at all times. Again, this is for them as much as it is for you, because if you can keep them all happy and you get no homesickness or any freakouts, you will be having a significantly better time with your experience. And then just a reminder again to reiterate, the more prepared, the more informed, the more ready they are, the lower the chances of them feeling left out, feeling homesick, feeling scared. So yeah, just engage them, pull them into conversations, make sure that they are all engaged with the rest of the cabin and that they all know what's going on and what to expect. Does anyone have any questions on that? It's usually the answer for anything.
Okay. All right, let me jump in here. And if you have questions, you should just stop us. You know, don't feel like you got to wait. You just jump in, open your mouth. We'll say something. First of all, if you don't have that document, I just in the chat put a link there for you to go to. If you don't have that open in a separate tab somewhere, you should get that open now. Take a look at it. We're going to use it in just a moment. Before we do, I'd like everybody in the chat, if you can, just for a moment. I'm going to ask you, invite you to kind of think back to your first time being a camper at William Lawrence. And I want you to try to picture those first 36 hours. And I want you to just, if you can quickly, in the briefest of terms, describe in the chat what you found the most intimidating thing to be in those first 36 hours, maybe first 24, however you need to break it out. What was the scary thing that you first had to get used to? I have to think on a moment for that.
You want us to type it in the chat or?
Yeah, if you want to just type it in the chat, not directly to me, but just with the group. Getting used to Goose. Thank you, Nat. Yeah, he sent that to me directly. You could have just said it to everybody. I mean, let's all be honest with each other. So sleeping in a new bed, there you go. Showers, great, perfect. These are great examples. Keep going if you've got a few more. Dining hall stuff. Was there any dining hall stuff? Was there, you know, I mean, going to the bathroom in the middle of the night, there's one, you know, that I can think of. That first time you got to pee at 2 a.m. I mean, with us old guys, that's just a regular, you know, thing. But, you know, them having to do that and then leave a building and go to another building and wondering if it's even okay to wake up somebody in the middle of the night to do that. Yeah, that can be tough. Oh, there's a good one. Signing up for activities you've never tried before. Yeah, good. Thank you. What's happening next, right? Look at what you're seeing there. And these are the things that you need to keep in mind and not take for granted. Most of you guys have had a reasonably good experience at camp. There you go, signing up for activities. I think we had a couple more jump up there, but the concept here is that we take so much for granted. And when you get out of this meeting, take some time to audit in your mind what all those differences are that these kids probably have never done before. And I'm going to say this, and I want you to really internalize this as well, is you have to not just consider these problems with the juniors. It's middlers. And in my experience, there will be seniors that will run into this problem as well. I've dealt with homesick 14-year-olds who have never been away from home and have never had to, we don't think of it as roughing it at camp, but they do. And, even for people that age who are not that much younger than you guys, that's something that we go through.
I'll even say it's not just even your new campers. It's a lot of returning campers as well.
Yeah.
That could just be having a different experience than they were expecting, and it's the smallest thing can trigger it. So, like, just getting, especially this year, if suddenly the program looks very different, which it will because we have a different program that's running. Anything like that could lead to the uncertainty, which then leads to homesickness.
Okay, so let's move on to the second topic, which is going to be cabin life. And that's where this document comes in. We're going to try to keep this condensed to 25 minutes here. So we're going to move right on to that document. I want to take a look at it. This is something that says camper and cabin care checklist. This is a short checklist that I have put together for each counselor. And I would say, you know what, go ahead and put it up in the CQ. Campers really shouldn't be going in there. And if you need to put it up in there to sort of remind yourself at the beginning, what is it that I need to be doing on a daily basis? Eventually, all of this should become muscle memory to you as you keep doing it every day and keep in that practice. It is important, though, that you do keep up this practice every day. And in fact, one of the notes that I had that I want to kind of mention verbally is the further we get into the session, the more important it is that you're making sure that you're doing these things, because the camper care practices that we do get lost once we start getting going, because we think, all right, everybody's got it. Everybody's got the hang of everything here. And in reality, there are a lot of things that we stop checking in on, and so they stop happening. Okay, let's go through this. First of all, first thing in the morning, Reveille is going to go off. Congratulations, counselors. You're no longer campers in the senior unit who are going to wait till the second bugle to get out of bed and get your clothes on and then run up to the flagpole. In fact, you are doing exactly the opposite. You are getting up at that very first bugle because you've got work to do. And you've got a lot of work to do before we hit that second bugle, which is going to be in about 25 minutes or so. So you need to get yourself up. You need to get yourself taken care of first and foremost. And this is what, you really need to be starting the day well. So get yourself up, get yourself dressed, get yourself awake, that kind of thing. And then you got to get everybody else out of bed, because you got to get them out of bed. You got to get them processed. And this is what we're seeing is that you've got to get any campers. There are going to be some campers that are going to be taking meds first thing in the morning, even before they get to breakfast. There are some kids who get out of bed, go right down to the infirmary, and they get meds. Now, I know this may be a shock to you, but some 8-year-olds and 9-year-olds and 10-year-olds and even 14 and 15-year-olds will forget to do it. But it is your job, it is your responsibility to first know who those campers are and make sure that they in fact went and did it. Okay. Now I'm going to give you guys also another form. It's a blank spreadsheet that is, and I'll even give you the link to that so you can take a peek at that if you want. It is a blank spreadsheet that when you're given the camper confidentials, and that's a whole big document, we'll share with it to another night so you can look at it. It is a form that's going to tell you which kids have which meds, that kind of thing. And you're going to keep a little spreadsheet up in the CQ. I'm going to show you how to fill it out so it doesn't really give away any information in case somebody pokes their head in, but will be an indicator to you of which kids need to go get meds when. And that document, let's see if that's it. I'm hoping that's right. Yeah, spreadsheet. That's going to be filled in, and you will be able to look at that and know when your kids, not only which campers have meds, when are they going to get them. and you need to be responsible for that information. So we get the kids out of the cabin, getting any kids to the infirmary that need to get there. And then we're getting everybody up to the knoll so they're ready to go at flag raising. You know, one of the painful things we run into is waiting for campers to get up there after the second bugle. We really don't want to keep people hanging around, because when they hang around, they start shoving each other and things get weird. But when you get the campers out of the cabin, you as the counselor, one of the counselors that's there, and some days on a day off, it might be you and nobody else. You need to hang back, because I want you to check, and you're going to do this with your hand. You're going to go and check each bunk in the cabin after all the campers have left, because what you're going to find out, and this is one of the many gross jobs you'll have as a counselor, is you're going to make sure that the campers did not soil their bunks. There are going to be some campers that we know have bedwetting problems. It's going to be in the confidential paperwork that you receive. But that is not to say that if they didn't ever wet their bed before camp, that doesn't mean they're not going to start doing it now. There are a lot of kids that have bedwetting problems at camp that will not have them at home. And the last thing that we can afford to do as counselors is to leave that bunk in its filth, if you will, because you're going to, obviously there's going to be a lot of hygienic issues. Knowing that the bunk has been wet when the kids go to the flagpole gives us the opportunity to clean up the mess in the cabin while the kids are at breakfast. So the camper is not embarrassed by you having to work with the camper to clean up, a wet bed while all the other campers are watching. You're essentially, what you would do there is you put everything into a garbage bag, walk it down the trail, sort of clandestinely, and get it to the laundry room where we would wash it and try to get it ready for, the next time they have to sleep. We can go into that procedure a little bit more when you guys arrive, but just know that you got to check that bunk before you leave the cabin. Flagpole, make sure you got all your campers. That's doing a head count. And then as we go down here, I'm going to kind of put my cursor down here so you can see where I am. And you've got to keep an eye on your kids when they're lining up there for flag raising. Meals are going to be done differently, at least for the first week, until we're past any sort of COVID protocol. But that does not change the fact that you guys are going to have obligations to your campers while meals are going on. Since we won't be setting tables, the first one isn't really going to be all that accurate until such time as we do. But when we get back into the dining hall and people have to set tables, you really need to be checking to make sure that the campers have remembered to set the table, because if you don't, then we're all waiting outside the dining hall to get in. When we're eating outside right now, that's not really a concern, but it will get there once we get back into the dining hall. Some campers will have food allergies. Again, on the camper confidential form that you're going to receive from the parents, we will be informed of what those food allergies are. However, and we won't go so far, by the way, as describing what the food is, what's in the food, that there are options at the window for people that might have allergies for it. But kids are sometimes going to be a little lost. So at the very beginning, what I would suggest is that you go through the food line with the camper who's got a food allergy and make sure they know what they can take and what they can't. And if there's a situation where it looks like most of the things through the line aren't going to be helpful to them, that's when we go to the window. The window is not there for people to just decide they don't want to eat what's there. It's only for the food allergies. But you can take the kid through the line, let them know what's safe to eat, what's not safe to eat, and take them up to the window, or however we're doing foods for that first week, making sure basically that every kid in your cabin gets something to eat and doesn't get overlooked. There was a time we didn't do this, and there were a lot of kids with food allergies who would come back with a couple leaves of lettuce thinking that was the only thing they could eat for that meal. It is up to you to make sure that that doesn't happen. And you'll notice that I say phase 1, 2, and 3. Do you check that out? Can you guys see that on the list? Okay. We're going to talk a little bit about teaching self-help skills in future sessions. Here's the big thing. I want you to assist the kids in that first whatever section of camp to figure out what they need to eat. But in doing that, I thing is we want to teach these kids to self-manage over time. So it's not that you're doing the same routine for them on the last day of camp that you're doing the first day of camp. We want to empower these kids so they feel confident that they can manage these kinds of things. But we got to do it step by step. After you've done phase 1 with them for a little bit, you go to phase 2, which is to say you have a discussion before you go to the food line and say, all right, what do you think is there that you can eat? What do you think is not? All right, go give it a shot. Let's see what happens. If you need to go to the window, you know where to go. Okay, go to the window, and they will go to the window or do what they need to. Check their food when they get back. Did they get a reasonable amount of food, or did they struggle? Then go back and help them if they did. Phase 3, I have 2 phase 2 there. Somebody, oh man, look at that typo. Phase 3 is basically saying to them, hey, I think you're ready to go out on your own here a little bit. Why don't you give this plate to make sure the 2 weeks. It's not going to be like phase 1, 2 is the next. Just kind of make sure that they build the confidence and they know the situation. You can do, it's going to make them feel a lot safer more at home. Look at all the plates that are coming through the buffet line, not just kids with food allergies, making sure that everybody's eating, that they're not eating too much, that they're not that they're not overloading the plate and then throwing 90% of that plate out. Look at what everybody's got when they come back to the table. Are they eating? If they're not eating, they're probably homesick, or they're probably sick, one of the two, or they're upset or sad or something. A plate that can tell you a lot about a kid and what mental state they're in. Try on, did they get their meds at whatever meal they need to get it? The nurse will come around and deliver meds, but I can tell you that eating out on the knoll will make the job of the nurse that much harder, because they are now have to go find every kid. If you're there and you know what meds your kids need at that meal, you can kind of wave the nurse over so they at least can find the camper. That's probably going to assist our nurses a lot, especially with those meals out there, eating out there. I really want you to either be rotating the kids around per meal, so you're sitting with new kids at every meal. I want that to happen because I don't want you to get into the habit of talking just to the same kid at every meal. I want you to talk to a different kid at every meal. I want you to engage with every kid at every meal, just to basically check in with them and see how they're doing. So I know that counselors usually sit on the end. That's where the most room is. We see that. It's kind of like the counselor throne. But if getting you to sit next to a new camper at a meal means you have to sit on the bench for a meal once we're in the dining hall, that's something that I think we should be doing. This way you can engage the kids. You don't have to force them to sit with people they don't want to sit with, but you're going to do your little rounds. When you're out on the knoll eating or eating outside, yeah, you've got to make a little bit more of an effort to go around and check in with everybody. Inspection, I'm going to try to speed this up because I've already blown my time. You're going to see a billion different rotas in your cabin. We're going to talk about those later, but just know that we live on rotas, inspection rotas, shower rotas, all that stuff, KISP rotas. It makes the world go round in a very smooth fashion, and we use them. You know that because you were campers. You need to pay close attention every day to, have they changed their clothes? Have they brushed their teeth? Look into their trunks while they're there and cleaning up. Just say, let me take a peek at your trunk. You don't need to like rifle through it, but is the thing a disaster zone? Is there dirty clothes in there? Are there wet clothes in there? Is there filth in there? Is there dirt in there? All of those things. You need to look at every trunk during inspection with the camper, just so we're not invading their privacy later. But take a peek at it. Is it in good condition? Here's the other thing you're going to find when you do that, by the way, is they've got a ton of clean clothes sitting in the bottom of the trunk that they don't ever even know that existed, and they're wearing the same 3 t-shirts at the top. You need to inspect to make sure that's not happening. Where's the wet stuff going during inspection? Does each camper have, before they leave for first period, everything you see on that list? I'm not going to go through it. You can read that, and you should, and you need to. but you got to make sure that those kids have all those things before they go to first period, or whoever the first period instructor is probably going to be a little upset at you that they have to send a kid back to the cabin to get it. You're going to see in there that there is a list of maintenance checks that you're going to need to do every day at some point. Find time to do it. These are physical plant things in the cabin that if they are broken, you need to discuss it with your co-counselor and get these things repaired. If you can't get them repaired, then you got to let our maintenance guys know, Jim, etc., to get it fixed. But these things need to be in working condition at all times. As you can see there, you're looking at shutters, screens. Do you have enough suntan lotion? Because you're putting it on kids both morning and afternoon. If you run out of it, go get more. If your screen has got a hole in it, you got to fix it. Your kid's going to get bug bites, that stuff. Look at that list, internalize it, because you're going to need to check it on a daily basis. Siesta, same deal. When you shovel them out of the cabin at the end of siesta, it is up to you to make sure that they are properly equipped for the afternoon. All of those things may need to be true. And on letter writing day, as you can see there, it's going to be your job to make sure that the letters got written. And I cannot emphasize this enough, I'm going to bold it just because I need you to really get this down. Is it addressed properly? Kids don't know how to address an envelope, and you need to help them. And we have examples for that both in the dining hall and in the cabin, so you'll take a look at those. And then you got to make sure that everybody's written a letter and that it's turned into a unit leader. Lastly, on post-EP, I want you to take a look at that bunk right before they go to bed. When they're off at the showers or whatever, take a quick peek at that bunk. Is it sleepable? Is there a layer of sand in it? Is there like no sleeping bag now and they're just kind of wrapped up in a thin blanket? You know, did something happen to their sleep space that's going to make it uncomfortable for them to sleep? Just take a quick peek at all their sleep spaces. Remember to send your nighttime campers to the infirmary for who have nighttime meds rather. Make sure the kids are going to bed at a reasonable time. You know, juniors should be lights out right at taps, get them to sleep. Middlers, they have a tendency to kind of read or do a quiet activity for about 15 minutes. And I know sometimes that the senior unit, you guys, you know, who are going to be in the senior unit jails, seniors like to keep pushing it to like 10, 15, 10, 30. No, I'm really only comfortable with about a 15-minute activity time after taps, because they start burning the candles at both ends. And I got to tell you, they can be a little unruly when they haven't had enough sleep, and they won't self-manage because they're pushing every envelope and every limit. That's the list. And I've gone over by 5 minutes, but that is, I figured that list would be incredibly helpful for you. This should not be the last time you look at the list before you come to camp. Take a look at it again, go over it slower. And tomorrow night when we meet again, if you have questions on it, let's start the night with that. And we'll go from there. All right. Are there any questions before we tap out?
I got a question, Goose.
Go for it.
So if we discover that the bed is not sleepable, what do you think that we should do?
Okay, so you're talking at night?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think it really depends on what the problem is, but I would say remedy it. If it's a situation where it's a really dirty bunk, let's get it, take the sheet off, shake it out outside, get things reset so it's sleepable. If things are now soaking for whatever reason, let's go quickly get down to the infirmary, grab a spare sleeping bag or whatever we need to do, just to get it so the kid can sleep. Because a lot of kids will just kind of say, all right, well, I'll sleep in a damp sleeping bag, and that's never any good. They'll get used to living in subhuman conditions and just do what they need to. So you remedy the condition however you need to, depending on what the situation is. Ask for help if you can't work it out yourself.
Right, and just a reminder, this is your JLs, your first time being counselors, LATs, this is like the practice round before you even get your first time being counselors. So we're telling you this and you need to know it and you need to be able to do it. but you do have support. You're not, I mean, there might be a day that you're alone because your co-counselor has a day off, but you will be supported through this. So if you get to a point where you don't know what to do and something seems really off or seems really weird, you're not going to be by yourself by any means. You also have Gustav, Goose, and myself besides your co-counselor and your unit leader that are there to kind of help you. We know this is your first go around at this, and we want you to be as prepared as possible, but not alone.
Heartily agree.
I had a question.
Go ahead.
So when we're writing letters, say you're with like an 8-year-old junior and they don't know their address, what should you do? Like they just don't know their address, but
Yeah. So what you would probably do there, first of all, that's a great question. And what I would recommend is get the addresses off of the camper confidentials when you look at them. These documents we have you look at like before the campers arrive. And there is so much valuable information in there. This is one session can show you just how much information you can get off of there that's going to be helpful. I would get the addresses off the confidentials then.
Also, if you happen to, for some reason, have forgotten it or whatever, that information is always in the office and you can come and ask if you have to.
Correct. Seeing as how we're trying to cut down as much traffic, indoors, that would be something I would really recommend to make sure that you have up front. And yeah, but if you lose it, definitely go to the office and go from there. Anything else? All right. Well, thank you very much, everybody. And I apologize for keeping you late. And we will see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See ya.
Just Goose. Just tomorrow I have a final exam
Okay.
in France, so I cannot be here at 2 a.m. because I need to rest before it. Okay. Thank you.
I totally
Okay.
understand that one. And
No, okay.
thank you for being here both of these nights. So
Yeah, you're welcome.
Get you
Okay.
the recording.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Bye.
I will also not be able to make it because I have a running track and field thing. So I will not be able to be here tomorrow.
Okay. Again, if you can make sure that you're looking at the video that we publish, and you got the documents that we did here tonight, and if there's any tomorrow, we'll make sure that we include them in the email with the link to the video.
And Drew,
Okay, cool.
side note, we've got a lot of long distance runners on site this year. I know you need to keep up your practice for your team. So don't worry, we've got lots of people already lined up to run with you.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Thanks. So we should stop the recording, I think. Can you stop the recording, Nat?
I'm trying to figure out where it is.
I think it's
Something here that
Alt-R
says-
again.
Something here that says more, but it doesn't, my
It-
computer doesn't react very, there we go,
It's still
stop
recording.
recording.
Oh, okay, you can also hit it here.
Yeah, but